Here's a tricky job. This bike belongs to what must be one of the most unluckiest cyclists this week. And he's coming to us with an escalating amount of problems, I guess. And his holiday, he literally flies out in 2 days' time and his bike is in a right state. Let me try and run through some of the problems facing us, how we're going to solve this and get this guy in a bike box on his flight and enjoying his holiday, because he came into us pretty downbeat, to be completely fair, and I don't blame him because he's just spent an awful lot of money on his holiday, a lot of money on some bits and pieces, and everything has just gone wrong. Now, the first thing that happened was that he hit the world's biggest pothole and completely smashed his back wheel in. Went back to his Trek dealer and said, look, these are under warranty. They sent them away and said, yeah, do you know what? These are being involved in a crash. This isn't a warranty, but yeah, we've got your back. What we'll do is we'll completely rebuild the wheel, 500 quid. I'm like, do you know what? That is just, it's a really good deal. You're not gonna get a wheel better than that for that sort of money. I would just take it if I were you. And so he did. But this story goes on. It hasn't stopped there. You see, what happened was he picked up his old Hunts and said, oh, do you know what? I need to do one more ride. I put my old Hunt wheels back on so I can go out for a ride with the local cycling club. And as people do that ride in pelotons, there was a coming together. I don't know all the ins and outs of the accidents, but there was a bit of a pile up. He came into us with broken spokes, no more spares, bent his rear mech hanger, and he's broken his rear brake as well. And I'll show you the brake in a second. That's a really puzzling problem. So our mission is, first and foremost, get this rider back on his bike so he can take his bike on holiday and have an absolutely fantastic holiday. That presents us with a few problems because getting hold of parts and that sort of thing and the tight time scales. So this video is about how the hell are we going to fix this? First off, let's take a look at this new wheel because, I mean, this was an absolute stroke of luck. Like, you can tell this guy's luck is turning. So what they've actually done, Bontrager, even though they asked for his old wheel back, they've actually just sent an entire new wheel. And I think that's sort of kind of fair enough. I don't think you'll be able to get a better back wheel than this for that sort of money. I mean, these literally use DT Swiss hubs. They use the Sapid CX-Ray spokes. They're built by Trek, come with another warranty as well. So I think it was probably the best deal he could have got, to be honest. And they're gonna match the front wheel, etc. So that absolute stroke of luck. All we need to do is set this up tubeless, and they provided the bits and pieces that we need to set up that tubeless as well, and get that tire fitted. This is a bit of a win, to be completely honest. However, none of this helps that brake problem. So let me talk you through this. Something really weird is going on with this brake. Now I've got a brake spacer down there, so I know that the wheel's not in, but it looks, first of all, like it actually worked, but you've got a really soggy bite point and this really slow return. So I can pull the brake on, but it doesn't release down at the caliper. And also, as I pull, I can just keep pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling. Even though it's stiff, I can still pull it to the bite. It doesn't lock like a normal brake does. And it's also not releasing down at the wheel end. And then you peel back the lever hoods. The first time I saw it, there's just loads of oil. And as I pull this, I can start seeing oil just coming out of here. So this lever response you get is fairly common in SRAM stuff. And anyone who works in a bike shop and who builds bikes will know this is normally a symptom of the little stealth jig. So just underneath here, there is a little connector, and it's not a full hydraulic coupling, only hydraulic couples to the lever. So if you undo this, oil will leak from the hose end, but oil won't leak from the lever end. There is like a little valve in there. So it's very precise. You need to be able to build this, insert the olive and barb, and then do it up to precisely 9 Newton meters, because that's enough to activate that valve and everything seems to work. So this is actually a symptom of some kind of restriction. I am more concerned about all the oil that is coming out around these here, and the lever actually moves a fair bit as well. As I pull it, I can see the lever flex and move. So I'm also concerned about some crash damage. Now remember, we've only got 2 days to fix this. Being onto the SRAM spare parts catalogue, I found the spare parts that we can use to rebuild this. Now it's not an easy job, but it's sort of relatively straightforward so long as you've got all the parts. However, going onto the SRAM spare parts catalogue, all of these seals are out of stock for at least 8 to 10 weeks. So that's no help to us at all. Sort of the only option really is to get this guy riding again, is just to replace it, belt and braces. We know it's ready, let's get you on your holiday, let's go. We have had a bit of a hunt around and we found this, a little plastic bag. This is what they call OEM, original equipment manufacturing, and every now and then, in fact quite often, it enters sort of the grey market, and this sort of stuff that was always intended to be fitted onto a fully built bike enters the marketplace through these big online retailers. And every now and then those big online retailers go bankrupt or they cancel their orders, and this stuff ends up at good old independent bike shops where the sales reps come around and go, oh, do you know what, we've got a whole load of this OEM equipment stuff that, you know, wiggle chain reaction didn't want, do you want some of it? And we're like, yeah, let's strip this down, let's get a new lever on there, let's just do the quickest job possible, let's not worry about doing too much diagnosis, let's just get it done, and let's put this customer's mind at rest that he is going to have a bike to take on his holiday. Normally you need to make sure this is tightened down enough to activate this to stop this. So I'm just going to give that a quick tighten. The best tool to hold on to this with is actually with one of these little Nipex pliers, and you can either use an 8mm or a flare wrench. No, that's still really soggy. Yeah, in fact, sort of now I'm sort of focusing down on what's happened. Is if I move this, I can now feel that flex. So something in this lever body has cracked, I think. I would love to try and get really into that and fix it and work out what's wrong with it, but time is ticking, and as always, we're always on the clock. We can't just stack up our labour time, and we have a very, very anxious customer wanting to put this into a bike box and get on a plane. Gloves on, because we're going to be dealing with some hydraulic fluid and stuff in here. Let's just get this disconnected. So the plan is hopefully just drop the fork enough, pull that cable through, leave another cable inside the frame, or just use a gear cable, and then try and pull the new cable through, cut it, bleed it, hopefully job done. Now, when you're undoing this, remember this side is going to be captive, this side's going to have oil, so if we just keep that facing upright, should be able to catch all the oil. So this is quite stiff, so it's probably just because that compression bung is a bit tight, so I'm just going to loosen off that compression bung, pull this off. If your Trek Emonda is looking like this with all these headset spacers, this is the reason why Trek need to bring back the H2 geometry with that slightly longer head tube, because this is quite common amount of spacers and just makes you know, your cockpit area look an awful lot smarter for the majority of riders. So when you're sort of working in this area, you just need to be quite mindful of like bits and pieces hitting the paintwork. So you can just see what I'm doing down here is like using my other hand just to try and guide the handlebar and keep it away from all the paintwork. We're going to need to cut off the little olive and barb on this. So just watch your eyes when you do this. Just walk away. Now we're going to have to do this because the cable is not going to be long enough. Once I cut that little bit off, because of this internal cable routing, it wasn't going to be long enough to then reconnect another olive and barb. It just wouldn't reach, so we're going to have to replace this. And also, what I don't want to do is get in a situation where I have replaced the lever, bled it all up. It was actually a problem with the caliper. Again, we could spend all this time diagnosing it, and again, as a mechanic, a professional mechanic, you've always got to be aware of your labour time, the customer's wait time, and of course, the actual cost of the components. And in this case, when we're charging about 200 quid for that lever and bit assembly, and as you're going to see on this video, how quick it is to just replace the entire thing compared to try and diagnose and fault find and essentially rack up a bill, and at the end of the day, we might not actually fix it, we might have to buy another part, we might have to buy another part. This is a very much belt and braces, get it done, do a good job and sort of move on. And it's sort of disappointing sometimes because as a mechanic, we always want to fix things. I also think it's really our duty to make sure that we're doing what's best for the customer. And in this case, he's going to get a new 2-year warranty. You can't really argue with that, I don't think. Now, these brake pads are brand new, so I'm just going to salvage these quickly. Now, one concern with doing it this way is that inside the down tube, there's going to be some insulation in there as well. Now, what I'm hoping is that this will pull through the insulation, and as I put the new cable through, it will pull it out and we can try and stuff it back in as we go. And we need to salvage this 140 to 160 mil adapter. Okay, job done. So a little thing to remember is when you buy OEM stuff, you don't always get all the bits you need because they sometimes supply these in multi-pack. What you'll find is when you buy them like this, these are very much being delivered in a way that a factory assembler can get to it very, very quickly. So at the end of the cable, you will see that you have this instead. So like The first little bit of metal you can see just down the bottom is actually sort of the threaded barb, and then this is screwed onto the top of it that you can use to actually thread through the frame. So the little threaded barb isn't one of the ones that you can easily unthread like if you buy them separately, so I'm going to need to cut that off because we're going to need to cut the cables. If you had brought this yourself, you would now be in a situation where you would have to then go out and buy a pack, because you'll get packs like this. I thought this would be the case, a little olive and barb set, and these are actually quite expensive, SRAM. They're like £5, so you don't always win when you do OEM stuff. In fact, having said all that, I've just noticed this particular one does actually have the 140 to 160mm rotor adapter, but it doesn't have any frame mount hardware. Definitely worth doing a push and a pull maneuver with this. Don't just pull it through. You're very much using this as a guide rather than something that's going to force it through the frame. So I'm not putting a massive amount of pressure on this. Yeah, here we go. There's that tube that I was talking about. I was hoping that this would come out. When you're sort of threading these cables around, just be hyper careful of splashing oil in your face. Either keep a hand on the end or just keep your eyes well away from it. So right now, this is just loose assembly. Just going to nip this up. So let's just measure this cable length. That's going to go to there, to there. Let's give that enough to go penetrate inside, so we're cutting it there. These are the Unior hose cutters. Love these. One, because you can change the blades dead easily, but also they don't splash when you cut, so it's really cool. So next step, we need to get some dot grease on here. So we grease those threads, grease this olive, connect this all up. Let's go and get the bleed kit and let's get cracking. So this is one of the things you need. This is dot compatible hydraulic disc brake assembly grease. You're just going to use this on these threads here and a little bit on this barb. Cool. I'm just using our little Nipex pliers because you get such a better grip. I'm trying to use anything else. And then this is our 8mm flare wrench. The flare wrench is just different because it's got sort of 5 sides, if you like. So on these sort of bolts, you get a much better purchase. One of the things with SRAM is if you are good with all your sort of hose discipline and don't let all the oil drip out of your hose, you don't always need to do a complete bleed on these because you'll get a very good bite point. So SRAM use a bleeding edge tool, which actually looks like this on the end. Now, one thing you need to do with SRAM brakes is, you notice I've always got a cloth over the end of this. So see, as I pull back on the syringe, you'll see that little cavitation. Now, you don't need to be doing loads and loads and loads, and I've seen people pull so hard on this that they actually pull air in through all these seals as well. So it doesn't need to be much, just bit by bit, and you'll see a more permanent bubble appear up the top here, and then we'll squeeze that out for the last time. Look at that, solid bleed, a couple of little final bubbles just to come out. Okay, let's get these wheels done. Now, Trek use this sort of weird sort of plastic form, so rather than using rim tape, they just use this plastic stuff. So the idea is this covers the spoke holes, and then the tyre actually fits on this and creates that airtight seal. So probably saves an awful lot of time in the factory. I kind of like it. Sometimes it's quite reassuring to have the airtight tape, but we shall use this. It is actually quite a tight fit. It does actually clip into place. So I'm only really using the tyre lever just to tease it onto the tyre a little bit at a time. If you ever use a tyre lever, don't just try and go for that one big hero move. And on the other side, what I'm doing is I'm starting opposite the valve hole, so I'm finishing at the valve because that valve will be filling quite a big chunk of that drop channel that I want to use. Right, we've got a bit of boring stuff to do that you've all seen before. Finish this bike off and we'll talk you through what we're going to do to help this customer get on his plane. As you can see, we didn't manage to fix the rear wheel, and the customer collected their bike. It was a little bit of a rush in the end because we got the date wrong, and they came in and said, I need to put it in a bike box, I need to get on a plane. Here you go, it's ready to go. We didn't get this done because the spokes that we've got are the wrong length. Thanks, Hunt, and the spokes that we do need are out of stock. So luckily he had his Bontrager ones. We could get him out on his holiday, and we've got a little bit more time to try and source the right spokes for this. I mean, this sort of job as I explained at the very start of the video, is one of those frustrating things. As a bike mechanic, you always want to try and fix and repair things, understand them. It's not always the best thing for the customer, especially when the price difference between a full replacement and the time it takes to repair something can be quite marginal. And then we've always got to weigh that up against the extended warranty and that sort of thing, of being able to just replace them. So in this case, I think it was the right thing to do. I might try and, out of professional curiosity, go back and revisit that lever and see if we can get it to work. But the most important thing is that we've got a customer riding again at a reasonable price with a warranty, and I can be confident that they're going to go and enjoy their holiday with no other problems. I hope you found this video interesting, useful. Again, I'm really open to your comments and feedback, so please get them down below. Let me know what you do. I'll put this video up as a showcase and a point of discussion. So get down there, get discussing stuff. I'm really keen to hear what you guys have to say. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you on the next one.